they need detox. Where possible, they need light work. Whatever will start bringing them back into some kind of meaningful life. But hell no, you've got to get Rog a conference room next to his bedroom. Is it with 24 screens on the wall? Much, much more important than, I mean, you've been down to Cordova, you've been down to Hastings more than I ever have, and you've seen it, and you don't really want to go back, do you? You choose not to go there. I wouldn't go there too often. I don't think it would be so unsettled.
You'd be amazed at how many of them were high-end amateur athletes.
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of work on alcoholism in the past, and that can take anybody down to the gutter. You don't have to be, you know, not very well off. But that's the issue on the media, I think. It's unthinking, and you have to ask yourselves if your media is serving you. You buy the paper, you watch the TV station with the adverts. Are they holding authority to account? Because if they're not, they've said goodbye to you. They don't care about you. They think you're sapheads, spongeheads, stupid.
They're right.
Well, I'm saying that's what it appears.
Just a point on media as well. I know a lot of Vancouver people might be familiar that so many of our outlets are Olympic sponsors, even places like the CBC that aren't Olympic sponsors this year certainly were before and hold out hope of being so again. And then we have situations like the Vancouver Sun's columnist Jeff Lee, who also writes promotional material for VANOC on the side for undisclosed fees. And yet, as the guy we go to for our unbiased news, I just want to point out that there is an independent media collective in Vancouver and this magazine called The Dominion that is doing excellent media work. You guys can all pick up a free copy of their Olympics issue, which is all chock full of good information about the Olympics from independent media perspective. And Co-op Radio, of course, too.
Wake up,
Sorry,
morning show.
I see a question right there.
Hi, considering how a number of the Olympic and the World Cup cities have won their bids through bribery, how do you think that Vancouver and ourselves in London managed to get the bid?
I think they're different categories. Because I don't work here, but I haven't picked up anything, I haven't picked up anything actually of Vancouver's bid people paying IOC members. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I haven't seen I haven't seen the suggestion that London's different. And here I walk on eggshells, but this is how we think London did it. All big teams, being consultants of very varied abilities. But yeah, you need people to do designs for Stadia and see where the sewage goes and how big the IOC limousines are going to be. So there is some work to be done, as they pay people to do it. That's not a big problem. I wondered for a while how London did it, knowing there was strong competition from Madrid and France. I just let that hang in the air for a moment. And so I thought, how have they done it? So I looked down their list of consultants, and there were 3 people who worked for the ISL company in its heyday, when they knew every IOC member very well. They continually lunched them, dined them, socialised with them for ISL's commercial interests, and then went on to work for other dubious enterprises. What on earth were they doing as consultants for the IOC, for the London bid team? We did freedom of information. Oh, you can't have this because the bid team was a private company. Hang on, we said, there's a public money gone in there. So no, it isn't a private sector operation. It's a joint operation. And after making nuisances of ourselves for many months, which is what we're supposed to do as reporters, it's our job. We've got to be a nuisance, not a drum beater. We got some quite heavily redacted stuff, but we saw with 2 guys, and one of them's name sticks out to me, who used to work for ISL and for Dassler for years. He was on the Dassler Dirty Tricks team from very early on, that his expenses, and this is, I'd figured this, if we could get hold of it, I would see how the black bag money had gone through. And they paid him, didn't even categorise the expenses, just gave us the global figure. I think it was £750,000 for just over a year's work. And to me, that's it. He was the bagman, one of the bagmen. That the deal would be, nudge, 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 we pay you so much money, and you take a decent sort of fee, which we agree in private, and that's the black bag money. What you know in those circumstances, of course, there's always a skim, isn't there? Yes, I'll give them £500,000, okay? Okay, boss? Of course, I'll have to take 10% off for myself, you know, it's a lot of work. So we're slowly, myself and some colleagues are walking around this. We're waiting for the breakup, because in all commercial groups and indeed social groups, people fall out. People get fired. The boss screws the secretary and then she gets discarded for the next secretary. And we're waiting, you know, in the car park behind, over here, like, oh, what have they done to you? We've got to find out. You're waiting for the driver, you're waiting always for the lower key people who hear things. Or you know, whatever level, if they get slung out, they might come and talk to us. They might bring out the true accounts and expenses of these people so we can see where the money really went. It's a long process. We hang on in, we've made some progress, we want more. But I don't know about Vancouver, and I think it's less likely, because whilst there was heavy money flying around Nagano defeating Salt Lake in 1991 for the Nagano Games of '98, that's when the Salt Lake good old boys realised that was the game. You got to pay. But I don't recall who Vancouver was up against. But I,
South Korea.
yeah, well, a bit of money going in from good old Kim.
And Salzburg.
Salzburg could have had some dirty money. I mean, the Germans bought the World Cup for 2006, and fortunately some of the documents got liberated. You can't beat a company liquidation, because suddenly a private company that you can't get into, unless you can find a source, and it is very difficult, and you don't very often get success. You try, but you fail most of the time. But when they go bust, as ISL did, because of bribery, and you get a totally disinterested, uninterested liquidator from Ernst & Young who's coming, who's got to sell the furniture off for the creditors, but has got the bank accounts, and you go along nicely and you say, excuse me, if you come across any evidence of black money, and I did that with ISL with the first liquidator, and I thought, I'm wasting my time asking a grey Swiss suit. There's no way he's going to tell me anything. But I went to the creditors meeting in Zug, asked the question very politely in his coffee break, and to my astonishment, Dr. Bauer, who was doing it, said, oh yes, I found evidence of very strange payments to football officials, and I've written to them asking for the money to be returned or I'll litigate. You get lucky. What do you want to do? Be up the arse of Vannock or getting stories like that? That's what reporters live for. Sitting in the court when an irate judge says, you paid 100 million US. Fuck, out with a notebook. This is what we live for. You know, this is our drug. And it's very sad to me that some reporters don't feel the need to do that. I don't know why they're in the game. I really don't understand. Where's the fun? You can be so hated by the sort of people you could only wish would hate you. So you look for sources, and the liquidators are a very good source because they don't care. They're just selling the furniture. If you ask them nicely and they realise that you know what they probably found in the bank accounts, suddenly you're off on a 3-year investigation which is still running. And Herr Blatter, who we saw earlier, may well be feeling the cuffs. We've got other quick questions.
I'm just trying to go on the order of people who had their hands up earlier. Questions
oh,
now.
go on, Steph. Stiff me, Steph. No, what we're talking.
He was first, and
again.
then I'm next. So that fellow there, he wanted, and then I'm next.
Okay, thank you.
I want to cover 2 quick things.